You please shut up, stupid fucking whore!
You know what? Fine. I hope they break your fucking neck.
Who are these people?
I don't know.
You should let him go. You're making things worse.
Oh, but he's gonna shoot us all.
The possibility of us losing our lives is better than the certainty of him losing his.
Yeah, you should stab him.
Me? I thought we were pacifists.
Yes, of course we are.
God damn it! You're dead! We're all fucking dead!
See?
Scribbling was different. You know, like that's one thing that this whole thing has that I don't normally read is like didn't necessarily know what was going on, didn't necessarily have any idea where it was going to go. It's just a really good, full, solid idea. And I think it turned out pretty much like it was supposed to turn out too, which is another thing that's also kind of rare to get, I think, as accurate, of an execution and finished product.
I remember geek binging with you, Polaris, on the fact that I really liked the social justice element of it and the sort of heightened, realistic fantasy narrative behind it that really got my juices flowing. So I was hooked by that element of it big time.
Well, I think I have maybe a little bit different of a perspective than everybody else here because...
Oh yeah, you've been a part of this for a while, yeah.
I've known Polaris for most of my life, so I remember him, and I have a terrible memory, so if I remember this, then it had to have affected me. But I remember him telling me this before I moved to New York. It had to have been like 2012, maybe 2011. And I was like, oh, that's badass. So it's like, I don't know, Life of David Gale meets Eraser or something like that. And then 5 years later, I read the full script and I was like, holy shit, he did it.
Well, that was something that actually gave me the confidence to act in it as well, is because after you read it, you said, without me telling you that I was maybe interested in acting the misanthrope in one of the versions of it, that you said you imagined him as me. You were like, when I was reading it, I just thought of you for some reason. And I was like, okay, I don't feel like, because casting yourself is sometimes a douche move where you make a movie and then you're just the standout person who definitely did not get there through auditioning.
I think I was going to be in it. I mean, you held initial LA auditions like back in 2018, like February of 2018, and I didn't hear anything. So I was like, all right, well, you learned to bypass it pretty quick, but it was fun. I mean, when I read it, it was a fun. Seemed kind of dark, which I liked, like a dark comedy.
First, I was like, "What's a Reklaw?" Then I read there was a naked shower scene, which I was disappointed that you didn't do that in this short.
I did do it in the short. We allude to it.
You didn't invite me.
I remember I kind of had you re-audition sort of because
that's right.
The role that you auditioned for originally was more subdued and, intimidating and a little comedic. And I just needed to know that you could go all the way with the rage.
I remember talking to my wife. I'm like, how am I going to show rage? So I actually was wrestling a kitchen chair, but you didn't see it in the shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was doing the...
I just assumed you had one of your kids there or something, Homer Simpson. Tasha, I remember we're out of the country when you got the audition, right? And you recorded it in Spain or something?
Yes, no, I was in Tunisia. I auditioned in Tunisia, and I just had fun with it. I think I had costume changes and, I had like different locations. It was nice to have a meltdown in an audition. You know what I mean? It was nice to be able to curse somebody out and have all these different types of emotions. And I think I smoked a cigarette in it. I lit a cigarette.
which we ended up sort of working into the movie. I think you have a cigarette at one point that you don't light, but you are carrying it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I was like politically incorrect, whatever, because no one's smoking right now.
I don't know.
I worked nonstop the month up to recording, and I still was a little behind. And I ended up getting as much people as I could to help out. We'd be doing a setup, and between setups, you'd hear power tools, and it was like, do they have to do that? And it was kind of like, yeah, we have to shoot that scene tomorrow, and they do have to do that, unfortunately.
I mean, it's the first time I was ever on a production where the construction was the production. So it was definitely weird. It was, I'll say, one of the most difficult shoots I've ever been on. As far as being able to just even know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
Like it was, and I totally get that Polaris, were way over extended with 3 exits. Okay, well, first of all, when we got into town, we get to the Airbnb, there's cocaine, straws, pubic hair, like I think condoms, pubic hair in the beds. It was so disgusting. Oh my God, it was like towels with, I think, ass wiped on the towels. It was so gross. And I thought for a second, I'd done a movie before where the director really fucked with the cast, like to keep them on edge. I thought somehow it's like, how does this help the character? And then we just realized it was just a dirty fucking Airbnb. The good thing was, I think Clara and Tasha and I immediately bonded because of it. We all kind of powered through, like cleaning up as much as we could. And again, then we all realized, like, what are we doing? We don't really know what we're doing tomorrow. And I mean, that's kind of how it went. Every day was like, you get there, you have an idea of what you're doing, you're not doing it. It was almost like, you get a schedule and you're like, what on here will we actually do? And what that's not on here are we going to have to do that none of us are thinking we're going to have to do. So you kind of got prepared, by not being prepared at all. You got to move. You got to stay limber.
And I think I mentioned that before you guys even got there. I was like, we're shooting in little pieces, all spotting all around the script. So just be ready with the whole thing. Which I think a lot of film actors, when they hear that, they're like, this isn't a play. I'm not doing that. The way that to make the budget work for this, because even though I spent a lot of money on this, it's still, it looks like it cost a lot more than it did. What I did was very rigid actor scheduling where I had the whole movie storyboarded and shot listed and all that. And I would go, okay, we're going to do it in actor order. Bill is doing the first 2.5 days, just Bill stuff. And then he goes, and then we're getting, Tasha's going to be introduced and Clara and Scott. And then we're doing Lance for just 2 days. And so you do a whole day of just Lance's stuff and you're just feeding him lines. And then when you do your parts, it's all you. And then at the end, it was just me. Everyone left and it was just me and a camera acting to nobody. Because of that, it seemed pretty hectic probably to everybody else. I didn't have time to explain all this in emails to tell everybody. So it was very much just kind of me being like, this is the shot you're doing. This is your line, doing that. Okay, you're coming in. This is your line.
It was bonkers.
Had to be up here, yeah.
The added thing on top of that was definitely like, I didn't realize I was going to be jumping hurdles all the time. Fucking short ends. Dear God, right. The short ends. So we had time to rehearse really, which we did. We actually did a lot of helping each other out and rehearsing with each other, I think, in general. Like Lance and I really kind of hung out and stuff, which was kind of fun. But the fucking short ends, it was like the thing where it was like, holy shit, I just started to get the rhythm. The film ran out. You got to change everything. It's like, God damn it. That was crazy too. So it was definitely difficult. However, again, the finished product, I honestly left there thinking, I don't know what the fuck is going to be able to get cut from this. I'm with Lance Henriksen in 2 shots and then a bunch of arms and hands and maybe an ear from somebody, another shot that's not him. Oh, he's taped a lot. There was a lot of tape. So there was a shitload of that too. That alone is like just the filmmaking thing where you're like, I can wrap my head around it. You used to it to a certain degree, but I never to this degree.
It definitely was the first time that I had ever done close-ups on a different day to wides. That was the first for me, but it worked. It cut together. It worked. I think trust is what brought us together, and dealing with the cocaine and the pubes in the bed on day one definitely made me trust my colleagues completely. It was great.
Clara, you had a unique issue with the lack of rehearsals over anybody else, because a lot of the cast came in and were doing it similar to the way they did in the audition, and that was peachy. We hadn't got to really hash out the way Donna speaks and moves and all that. And every autistic person or a lot of people with neurodivergency have their own unique tics and stems. And the first day I remember we shot one shot of you doing it and we went another way with it. And we were like, let's make a big adjustment. We didn't even have time to really rehearse it. You guys were having your first meal and I came over to your Airbnb to hang out for an hour and you just kind of took me aside. We're like, so what are we, we kind of talked about it for just 15, 20 minutes. And we made some very significant adjustments that you had to kind of just roll with in 12 hours.
Yeah. I mean, for months prior to that, though, I'd been researching the Savant twins and working with that. But yeah, you and I had discussed it being not as vocally obvious. And so I'd come in with that preparation, even though months working on all of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, pivoting, right? Like Scott was saying, change.
Michael Schnick, you had the most jarring experience with this because not only is this a hectic production and I actually brought you on because I brought all my friends on to help with crew, and Michael's one of my friends. He was always somebody I had in mind for Wiley as somebody I could possibly cast in that. I actually offered the role to somebody else first who couldn't make it because he was on My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or something, and he couldn't do the shoot. And I just told Schnick like a day before, so like you're shooting soon and you're in the movie. Luckily, I kind of wrote the role with you in mind.
Yeah, it was an experience. I didn't get any cocaine or butt towels like everybody else did. But yeah, it was weird for me. Actually, Cruz, I don't know if you guys remember Cruz. He was one of the bearded fat guys on set. Edit that fat guy out. He actually told me like on my way was like, hey, you might play Wiley. And I was like, oh shit. And then I got like nervous and I don't know what to do. And so a part of me was like, is he trying to like mind fuck me? And like he's cast me the whole time, but he wants me to be like fresh when we start rolling and stuff.
I kind of feel like God is always collaborating with the filmmakers, where if you make a mistake, he'll be like, don't do that. There's a lot of things that fell through in this movie that as soon as it was over, I went, oh, thank God. Like Lance wasn't even my original choice. And then when finally, a few people passed because they were doing TV and were too busy. And then when I went to Lance, I was like, of course he should have been my first choice. He was so good in this. And so you're one of those definitely that now I imagine it with the other guy and I go, oh, it's so much better with Schnick. And then Michael Cortez, you had probably the weirdest experience shooting this because we did the restaurant scene independent of our 10-day shoot. So you flew to Texas, shot in Houston for one day, flew back. A couple weeks later, you fly back to just do You Dead on the Bed.
It was fun. I enjoyed both sets. The second one, obviously, there was a lot of commotion that day. It harkened back to my very first film that it always just seems to happen where the last scene is my scene of the day.
Right.
Just like Reklaw, I was covered in blood and everything. We were shooting in a studio and they're like, all right, we got 5 minutes to get this shot. And it was a real dramatic shot too. They're like, okay, you might, do it. And, so I'm doing this thing and I still have all this blood coming in. And like every take they kept putting more and more on. So they're like, great, now get out. So they gave me like this little like wet nap and they put me on the L of Chicago, like, goodbye, So like I'm wiping all this blood off and I'm like pink from it. That reminded me of that morning actually, because I think we wrapped like 4 in the morning. Everyone was so tired and so stressed and everyone just wanted to go home and sleep. And I was trying so hard to get all that stuff off me in the shower. And I just, that sense of, rush and like, oh, hurry up,
That reminds me of something Chris Pine said, that the difference between a regular actor and like one of those, get paid millions of dollars to do a blockbuster thing is that your experience for this movie is actually more like a huge budget movie where often you're just waiting in your trailer for days and it's 12 in the morning and then they're like, now is your scene. And it's like, oh, I have to like fall in love with this woman and there's an explosion behind me and there's a green screen. What am I doing? And the greatest actors can just roll with that and create something good. And all of you did that. I had this faith that no matter how crazy things got in the production, I have the best cast that I could have possibly assembled.
Unlike the other actors that day, I mean, if I couldn't play dead.
I didn't feel rushed or crunched like
That's
everybody
good.
else. I guess because I was there 2 days and we only did me and I left. I know you guys were crunched because I remember at one point you and your brother were arguing over a chair because you had to do something and he had to do something. You had to build this chair. And I remember going, I'll build the chair.
Right.
And you're like, what? I go, I'll build the chair. Go do your thing. I'm doing nothing right now. On a full-scale production, they would have freaked out, and the SAG rep would have probably been chasing me down, yelling at me. Yeah, the stunts were fun. It was good. Like you said, because you asked me, like, can you do stunts? I'm like, I do stunts when they ask me to. I'm not a stunt man. Yeah, we got to fight. It was fun. You came flying across the counter, Like those reactions you see when you come at me are like real reactions because I'm like thinking about timing and stuff. And I'm looking going, okay, now here he comes. Yeah, I got a little bit of stuff banged up, but
You were a fucking trooper about it. Looking at the raw footage after each cut and action, you can see you kind of or like, getting the dust off your head. And I'm like, this poor man.
I had all sorts of bruises. I think I showed somebody all the bruises one day. There was that scene you got behind me and you kept yanking that rifle into my ribcage.
Right.
It was just like bruises. It really didn't hurt. So I thought it was a good time.
I think for me, the one thing, I guess, were the stops, and having to be so emotional and messed up and having to stop and go again and stop and go again and stop and go again. That's draining. And yeah, the first night getting there in the middle of nowhere, in the dark, I'm the only black girl. I was like, this is like a horror movie. You know,
In Texas.
one of my biggest concerns ever in working in any production is if the people that I'm working with are going to be cool. If they are, then it makes everything else okay for me. Scott said that night we bonded, and I just think the cast, the crew, everyone was just, I know people say this all the time, but they were such a pleasure to work with. They were wonderful. But yeah, these guys were just, everyone was just kick ass. And we all looked out for each other, especially in the scenes that were especially draining for me. Clara always looked out for me. Are you okay? I think one time I almost fainted, right, Clara? And she saw me, she grabbed me a chair because I think we didn't eat that day or something. And I'm hypoglycemic, and I was just standing there and I was going like this.
You were the core, you three, Clara, Scott, and Tasha, were there the longest. I appreciate you guys making it fun for each other, because usually on a set that's less hectic, I can be a little bit more socially engaging, but this one, I barely talked to any of you guys if you weren't shooting. I was like, you're just upstairs, and and I'll direct you down here. I would see you bonding up there, and I would be like, oh, good, they're having a good time. And you, Clara, especially, I appreciate you almost being a half AD the whole time with safety, because you know me, there are so many things where you'd be like, are there nails sticking out of that box that guy's in, or is this person have that? Even if I seemed a little crabby about it, I really appreciate you helping me know that, when the line is getting close.
Donna was probably teaching me a lot. I actually do have I transfer a lot when I'm working on a role, so Donna was very savvy, so she made me look out for you all.
That is true that Donna, as a character, is very safety oriented. When you're casting, ideally, you get somebody who's 80% the character already, and then you can play with these differences. And if you cast somebody who's too off type, they're straining the whole time trying to fit that, and they don't have a lot of time to play with the character. And I think all of you were well cast in your roles. How do you think that your character is very similar to you? And more importantly, how does he differ from you?
There's definitely this thing between him and Lance's character. I mean, that was one thing that he and I talked about. It's they're kind of like a married couple. You can tell they've been together for a long time. They drive each other crazy at times, but they want to take care of each other. And I definitely like people that I'm super loyal to. And then definitely if you need to make some jokes, you need to make wisecracks, you need to riff. I can totally do that. How many jokes do you want? 87 in 5 minutes, okay. So those were things I had comfortable with. I mean, really nothing that stood out that was not like me. I mean, I could probably be convinced to go get rid of bodies. The right person. It's a fun character. That was the thing that I latched onto. This voice of humor in a really fucking weird situation that's pretty dark. One of my friends who was watching it, and they were like, this feels like the clone was directed an episode of Black Mirror.
You're right that your character was so fit you like a glove that when you audition, I go, it's like he was born out of the page.
I had auditioned in 2018 also. I think it was a long time.
Yeah.
And I think I did some ad-libbing or something too.
You did. Some of it we kept. You did that kind of German stuff, and I put it in the RV instinct because I was like, I like that.
No hot copies und was? Jawohl, mein Kommandant.
Yeah, I actually think there's a lot that's similar between me and Donna. I feel that she feels kind of out of place a lot, and that's something that I'm constantly feeling, especially as an immigrant in America. And like Donna, I thoroughly prepared for this interview. I have all my answers written out for you all as well. And like Donna, I kind of remember everything, which is a quote my mom often will describe to me. So that, I mean, I'm not a savant, and I have different neurodivergencies than she does, obviously, but there was a lot of similarity. And so then it became a question of, what do I dial up that's already within me? What's already, what if Donna already exists in me that I can turn up? And what is different between Donna and Clara that we can dial down on the Clara. But even little things. I mean, you came to me wanting her to have this really stylish 1950s hairdo, which I loved. And that's a similarity. There's a practical stylizing side between Clara. I like wearing pretty things. I'm wearing lace right now. But I like to be able to function in the clothes that I'm wearing. And I think Donna does too, right? She's on this suit. She's one of the boys. She's part of the team very actively, but she has her little quirks that are her stylish elements. So that was very similar. And in terms of the neurodivergencies, I do have certain OCD traits that when we were researching the twins and we were researching autism and we were talking about how to put this character on screen in a way that was respectful, that was honoring representation. There's a lot inside of me as Clara that is close to that. And I've done a lot of healing and work, and a lot of it has to do with, perfectionism problems and being indoctrinated by horrific white supremacy and being indoctrinated by a system of thought that's very distorted. But it does exist on that surface, and it's a trauma of how to cope through the world. So Donna, I felt very close to Donna in that respect. I'm going red. Look at me. I'm totally blushing. Wow.
I do also agree that you were surprisingly similar to her in a lot of ways, and even some things we didn't talk about. I love things about characters that you don't have to say, that the audience just gets. And I really like what you said, that she's a part of the team, because I noticed talking about her with some people who had seen it, that no one treats Donna like she's at all different or incapable. It's almost like she just has an accent, and they're just like, they trust everything she says. She knows what she's doing. They give her responsibilities. They defer to her. She kind of co-leads the team when they're in the, cleaning up. So it's cool to portray that.
Well, like I said, when I thought that you were Misanthrope. When I read it the first time, I was like, I think he thought of me when he wrote Wiley, maybe a little bit. But I've always been like, we talk about type as an actor, and I've always been like, oh, I'm the nerdy guy, or I'm the best friend guy. But I think this was like, I'm the hacker guy. And then since then, I've gotten like calls for like hacker guy. Sometimes it's little scenes where it's like, oh, he's on 32nd and 6th. So this role helped me identify that. And I have like 3 scenes ready to go if there's ever need.
More importantly, you're the hacker computer guy who's been to prison. It's like, we can believe that you would learn computers and then use it for no good.
Yeah, I have experience with prison. No, I'm just kidding. But opposite of me is that in real life I am so tech not there.
Right.
Like I'm still stuck in the 90s.
I saw him as a little naive, and I can be naive when it comes to relationships, and you're kind of starstruck, and the whole infidelity thing, and it's so sexy and mysterious, and like we're like little kids. So I kind of gravitated toward that. But I think where I'm not like this character is the fact that like I'm like meat and potatoes, man. Like I like if Tasha were to if she were to actually do that and like take something, or like anybody I was with, we wouldn't be going right to my place. We would go to the hospital. I would freak out. Cat. And this is too much.
I do like what you said, that it's like we're kids is you learn a lot about the essence of an actor and as a person by how they interpret and judge the character. And it was important for both you and Tasha when you auditioned that neither of you were like, this person is smutty and gross. You both were like, this is a fun relationship thing, or this is like a silly, specific to us gift. None of you made it seductive. And that cut out so many people for both of your roles that I was like, it's not sexy and like, ooh, And if that's their first inclination, maybe I'm still willing to cast them, but it's a definite like, oh, well, their instincts aren't right for this. Bill, so your character is going through some terrible shit, ends up doing some horrible things and experiencing the darkest possible side of yourself.
I'm not that guy at all, honestly.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I never killed anybody, but that's not really true because I was in the Air Force. Like if that happened to me in real life, my punishment would be like, you are on your own now. Bye. That's a totally different thing. Although I was just thinking while you were talking, I was like, I would have loved to have done the murder scene. Even if you didn't show it, I would have loved to have done the murder scene. Because that would have been like to me, this dude has already resigned himself to what he's done. When he comes in the house, he's very calm about it. He's going to go kill her now. The decision was already made. So you're already the shift has already happened by the time and then the fight's the fight. So.
What I love about what you bring to the role is similar to, I say, Tasha can't be too like smutty with it or else the audience will discard her. If you don't have a genuine vulnerability and sensitivity to you, if you don't seem like an actual decent feeling person underneath, the audience is going to discard you. And then the ending doesn't work.
Yeah, he said his heart broken.
Yeah.
The way he reacted to it was not in a good way, but that's basically what happened.
And it makes your relationship with Tasha make sense because you two are not obvious pair as a couple. And we have to show that they both have a sensitivity because you both do some kind of fucked up stuff and you both have to come from like an emotional sweet place. And also the fact that you're a pilot, we kind of littered the scene with aircraft stuff. And we had a photo of Tasha in stewardess gear and you guys, you were wearing the hat. So that kind of motivated it, where I think anyone could go, oh, if she's like a flight attendant, he's a pilot, I get it.
I did not identify with this chick at all.
Wow.
There's no way I would roofie myself. I've been roofied before, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
At my job. So, it's a very scary thing. I'm not getting on a soapbox about it, but coming out of it, it's not like you wake up the next day and drink water and everything's fine.
Right.
It's pretty debilitating. So there's no way I would do that. There's no way I would be stupid enough to cheat on my husband, who is huge, a very big, strong man, and bring another guy back to my home, which was so superbly decorated, I might add, with pineapple wallpaper, knowing that my husband might possibly freak out and destroy my house, which he did. We all make stupid choices when we're lonely or not getting enough attention or what have you, because at the end of the day, she still didn't leave. She was still there. Right. And I think when she says, honey, what are you doing home? It's just like, oh, well. But do I identify with her? Well, very, very interesting choices that I personally wouldn't have made. I did feel, even though Bill and I didn't have any scenes together, we did shoot. I mean, this was just a very worldwide event for me. We shot the picture. We met up in Atlanta and we shot the photo. My friend John Walder did the photos. It was really cool. Bill was amazing. We had these weird uniform that didn't really fit properly. And
right.
And the wedding dress, that was funny because it was too big. It's a shame. I would like for us to have a scene together. You know what I mean? To show that these people possibly did care for each other at one point and probably still do.
I think there are some little hints to that, in that you guys still have a little argument across the kitchen island, a little lover's spat, fine, fuck off, and
Dude, I totally get that relationship 100%. From the moment he fucking walks in and you see him, there is so much between I hope they fucking break your neck, that whole thing. You totally get that he's fucking hurt. Honestly, it shocks me how much you get. So little interaction time from all the characters. But that fucking relationship, I get 100%. Just a picture you two that Banks looks up and sees. It's like there's something in that photo that comes across, and it's like I can see these two getting together and shit happened, and now we're here. It fucking works.
I feel like that was a big concept of this whole short, is that here's what you're seeing and here's what you're sensing is so much around that we don't explicitly say. There were some clues there in the script, but we really, with the acting performance, we always lean towards that. Let's give this line delivery some history. Of your character, what was your favorite moment or line that you got to deliver?
My favorite thing is not even a line. And it's also something that would be very me. When they're fucking fighting, he reaches and fucking touches the knives. He's going for these knives. And I just I'm looking around like, if nobody sees, just a little pull the knives back, just out of reach. I'm not gonna stop anything. I'm gonna really interfere. I don't want to step on the fucking butterfly and cause the world to, And I think it also is like that character. It's like he doesn't want to upset things. He's there to do good ultimately. But if there's a way to, it's that whole let's shut our eyes and go la la la. Every now and then you kind of got to let things run. You can't control everything.
Yeah, each one of your characters is almost a philosophy, and yours is the moral gray, except, case by case.
I have a favorite moment, and I have a favorite line. My favorite line is, it's sarcophagus. I felt that was just hilarious, and I love saying it. Yeah. And my favorite moment was the special effects moment of chopping off Michael Cortez's leg over and over again. It was wonderful.
Your little tongue, your little...
Yeah!
Oh, right.
You're like... that's like action mode. It's like when Stallone flips his baseball cap backwards and over the top.
We did a little old school special effect with that I could only afford to mold one of his legs, but you technically start on the left leg and end on the right, and you bend them both down, and we have a little jump cut there. And so we shot the beginning of it on the other side of the room and then flipped it. Because I asked the special effects person how much would it be to mold both legs, and they were like, $1,700. And I go, okay, let's just do one.
Well, I had a blast on set, but that scene where I go, play it back, we probably did it 50 fucking times.
Yeah.
So I still wake up in cold sweats going,
me too.
Yeah, you and Scott kind of had to... Well, that's the thing is, I'll give you that peace of mind, everybody. I never moved on until we got it. So that's why the movie partially turned out well, is I don't move on until we got it. I appreciate you not getting frustrated with that, both of you, Scott and Michael, because it can be very mindfucky when a director makes you do something 50 times. We even stopped shooting film, and then we went to Wildlines, because I was like, I haven't got it. And I'm happy with what we got in the edit, but every part of the movie is important. And if we're sticking on something, I'm doing it. And there were other parts that you nailed very quickly, Michael. I remember we were on top of the RV and all that.
On top of the RV was like, we were done.
You just nailed it. And I was like, okay, moving on. It's
inside
cold.
the RV, I was like, is he David O-wrestling me? Like, what's going on?
Probably have to be, the line had to be, like, seriously, like anything. That's the ultimate. But you had me improv into that scene before we started talking. Just something to get us, laughing together and to lead into the scene. So that was kind of fun.
It was always something like ridiculously,
Yeah.
funny. It's like, cashews are really good for you.
And the funny thing is, we didn't even use the laugh. The scene begins with, so do we have anything? But you need that. You can just tell when an actor's starting cold.
When you came across that table, that bar, just to see you running at me full speed and diving across, that was just fun. I don't get to do stunts that often. I didn't have that many lines to say, really, so I don't know if I had a favorite line.
Dude, everything you say, everything that happens in that fight scene is amazing because it's fucking funny as shit. Like when you guys actually fall to the ground and you're like, God fucking damn it! It's like this whole thing where it's like, it feels so real and so awkward.
But the big throw, you were hitting that cabinet really hard and you had like no pad. I had no pad, but you're like, throw me harder. I'm like,
yeah, that's what's interesting about doing that fight scene is that a lot of times I go, the special effect is I just won't get hurt, hopefully. But we couldn't show anything. It starts on my butt, so you could see any padding and move it over. But that didn't hurt at all. I was very comfortable protecting myself and landing the right way. And I appreciate you trusting me. It's hard to get an actor to actually go all the way with you because they don't want to hurt you. And I'm like, you can fully do this. You had to do that head hit, which was a little uncomfortable. We had some padding, but I remember we only did a couple takes of that.
I have no clear memories of that. It's a total blackout. I think it's probably easier when you say just go full force, on that throw, than just say, let's do a full force throw, but yet don't really go full force.
I think is when I tell my husband, I hope they break your fucking neck. I have to retract my statement a little bit. That's something I can identify with that. Yeah, I would say so. As far as favorite scenes, I have many. One of my favorite scenes is when the whole team, I'm not in the scene, they're in the RV and they're driving and they're looking at the video and just seeing you guys work together because I don't get to see that until I watch the film. And I was like, wow, it looks like these guys have been together for years. I love the prison fight scene, not because you're nude, Polaris. Don't get
it's
get
a little,
head.
Get some butts in the seats.
I love a man's ass on camera, but I have this thing for reality television, but crime TV, the prison system. And you guys nailed it. That was good job. My other favorite scene, I think, is when they're bringing Clifton down the stairs. And even though he's not physically in the box, I felt like everyone was together. You know what I mean? Because as the character, I'm thinking, I know my husband has something to do with this. I know he's lurking around somewhere. Ooh. So, knowing that he's behind the door, I felt like, oh my God, we're all together.
I'm glad you mentioned that prison fight footage. Because that was my favorite scene to do, which no one was there for, but that was crazy. We flew out to Utah, got a bunch of local extras, and I brought my friend Marty in so that I could put him naked on the ground.
Marty.
And stomp on his head. That was Marty. That's the other butt in the scene. That's the good butt.
I was like, man, I think Polaris is lying to us. I think he really got locked up, and that's the footage.
And my hair was really that long.
And the graininess of the picture, because whenever you look at the footage from the overall cameras, it looks like that.
The slow shutter speed where it's just like a shot every half second. You're right. That is common of prison CCD cameras, but also it made it easier to fake stuff because you could just kind of Photoshop the shots. I'm not really stomping on Marty's head. I'm stomping on a pole with a towel wrapped around it.
I would hope not.
But it's easy to composite them. Yeah. And I just kind of had him move a little and all that, to be like, my brain.
And one more. I'm sorry. And when Scott moves the knives, I nearly peed myself. I would have to look the other way. It's so brilliant. It's so bloody brilliant, Scott.
That was also my other favorite thing was right when I say this guy's shooting her right in the fucking face, and your reaction is sorry, and it is.
You go, sorry.
I think that's what it is. It's like the moments that I really did. Yeah, there's a good line, but it's usually paired with some relationship or reaction that happens, a connection to all of it.
Which is partially why I made this short. There's a feature version that I'm going to try and get made after this, but I can't just give them the script. I'm like, no, it's the way we're going to make it. It's like the way it looks, the way we're going to act it and direct it and all that stuff. It's like you mentioned the Coen brothers. It would be hard to read Fargo and really see what they're going to do with it.
Tone is always the thing that you're never sure about in a script until you really get into it, talking to the director. And then even then, a lot of times, they never fucking do what they say they're going to do.
I want everyone to say which of the roles they would like to play other than their own. What role would they steal from another cast member?
Oh, I would do Tasha's role. And I would want her to be Bangs. I think she would be fucking amazing for Bangs.
I actually auditioned a couple women for Bangs. I was open to it.
I want to do Bill's role as Marshall. There's just something about that walk when he enters in the front door. Maybe I have a colleague crush on Bill. I don't know. But that scene for me where he's up to the bench, I'm like, oh, yeah. And then hiding from there.
I always wanted to be the misanthrope.
I knew it, yeah.
Just a skinny guy that can kick some ass.
It is the role for skinny guys to be like, yeah, one for us. And I considered you for the misanthrope. I was actually like, well, maybe Michael.
Probably Michael's role, the hacker.
Really? That's cute. I love that.
That's cute. Yeah.
That's cute. No, I would love to see that.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
To be able to say whatever you want to say as irreverently as you want to say it.
Marshall, definitely. After I saw her do it, it was like, okay, there's no way I could do it. No way I could do that. I mean, she nailed that. 100%. But if I had to pick, I would have Marshall. I would have loved to come in there, and I would have given you a run for your money during that fight scene.
I would do a lot. As a human being, I seem very nice, but I very much identify with the misanthropic parts of my character where about half and half every day I'm like, we need to save the children. And half I'm like, it's okay if we go extinct, fuck everything, no one matters. And so I got to express my misanthropic part, but I've never done a character that was so genuine in his altruism. Because I wrote the script and a lot of what he's expressing is the way I feel. A lot of your other parts I don't think I'd be very good at. Especially you, Tasha. I'm amazed with actors who have such emotional depth. To be able to tap into that consistently all day, I'm like, I gotta hire a specialist here.
Well, I'm an emotional wreck. And after living in the Middle East for a year and a half, I'm probably going to need massive amounts of therapy. So if you need another chick to cry, I'm your girl.
What advice would you give to somebody who is starting out or younger to keep them from wasting the time you did, either career-wise or accepting yourself as a performer or unlocking your potential?
If you think you want to be an actor, just do it as much as you can. I know a lot of people who want to act and they never do anything. I'm like, well, fucking record yourself, do a scene, act a scene with me. Like, what do you want to work on? What do you want to do? And you realize a lot of them don't really want to be an actor. They want to be in a movie. They think it's either going to be an easy job or they just have a completely different idea of what it's about. And also, like, if you really want to be in movies, TV and shit, know that it's probably going to be some of the most boring shit done. Once you actually get on set, don't expect it to be this fucking amazing experience.
I'm always like, the fun part should be for the audience watching it. Making it, if making it is the fun part, I often find the movie doesn't turn out that well because making a movie is hard work.
Go to therapy or make sure you know why you're doing this work, because the biggest waste of time, in my humble opinion, I'm going to sound like such a bitch, is actors doing this for their own therapy. You can learn from it and you get therapized by your job. I'm not saying that can't happen, but like, yeah, what Scott was saying, why are you doing this? What's calling you to do it? The therapy couch is the therapy couch. Acting is acting. It's all the stuff we were talking about before with the curiosity and play. That's not saying that it can't be therapeutic. I'm not saying that at all.
That's a great point. Acting is like our royal family in the U.S. The actors are the good ones. Immediately from birth, you're getting this oppressive thing that like they're special and you're not because they're actors and they're on TV. And so a lot of people who crave validation, they go, if I'm a successful actor, I'm good enough.
And then the other thing I would say, if you're just starting out, be in tune with the fact that the industry's changing. Check your racism. Look at Black Lives Matter. Read We See You, White American Theater, By the Ground on Which We Stand. Like, let's grow up a little so we can make more awesome, weird shit.
Well, I would say stay in school. I went to college for like 2 years and then I dropped out because I thought I was like, I'm God's gift to acting and nobody can teach me how to act. You know, you either got it or you don't. You learn how to hone those skills, but also you get connections. And I would say do everything and anything that you can do, because I don't know, in the beginning, I was like, I'm not going to do anything that isn't paid, which yes, you want to get paid, but especially when you first get to New York or LA, you know, you want to make connections and you want to do those little student films and everybody's just kind of learning together.
Someone told me that the best ability is availability. And that was pretty cool. Just to work, just keep working, work as much as you can. And also, like, this is like the old man in me, like yelling at the clouds. Print out your script. Print out your script. Live with it. Get coffee stains on it. I love getting the script. And then by the time I'm on set, it looks like all crinkled and it looks like cuneiform because it's lived. You know what I mean?
Did you just say cuneiform?
That didn't make sense. I just, I'm channeling here. I see a lot of actors that they're doing their scene on the phone. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I just can't. Maybe have a conversation with somebody, because like half of an actor is human experience. I used to love being on the subways in New York and just look at people and like, oh, that guy's such a weirdo. What a great character. And sometimes, like, you're just not going to find that.
That's a great point, that people in film has been around long enough that people are doing copies of copies of copies. They go, I'm going to do a scene like Pacino did in, you know, in Justice for All. And I go, you're studying a copy. Go watch a lawyer. Get back out there and watch life and tell me it. And so many of these things that are fresh, you'll watch now and go, that's so strange. I've seen so many, like, let's say a love scene before, and they've all been bullshit until today. It's the first one I saw that was honest, because they went, well, what's it like for me?
You got to stay in school. You got to take classes. I mean, I didn't have college education acting, but I've met people that thought they're God's gift to acting and just like, what can they teach me? It's really the same sentiment. Tiger Woods wasn't great. He had the potential to be great, but he wasn't great without those lessons that his dad from 3 years old. I had one teacher said, you need to train until your actual work becomes your training, but I don't book that much, so I can say that. Don't take yourself so freaking seriously. I mean, you can be serious about the work and do the work, but don't be so serious about it. Acting. I guess the last thing is that the mistake I made, I joined SAG too early, which I think eliminated me from a lot of possibilities. If I had to do it again, I would wait to join SAG until someone actually said, you must join SAG.
Be safe. And I don't mean play it safe, just be safe, because unfortunately it is a field where people are going to try to take advantage of you, male and female. I can't tell you how many Harvey Weinstein moments people tried to have with me and with friends. In an interview once, Madonna even said, she's like, I've done things that, you know, when I think about it, I can't sleep at night. I don't want to be that person. I've been lucky, but I've known a lot of people who weren't, and it's something that they hold in their spirit to this day.
I guess I'm the last one for advice to young actors, and I'll talk about this specifically as a writer, director, actor, whatever, is if you're getting a bunch of scripts to audition, you know, for, and you're going, I could write shit better than this almost every time, then write shit better than this. If you can do it, quit holding back. It's write yourself a little short film, write yourself an audition scene, write yourself this, because material is king. A lot of people talk themselves out of that. I know, Clara, you produced your own theater piece, which is amazing. Scott directs. I say give yourself license to produce your own work and be shameless about it. And the other thing would be, I think a lot of actors, even though you put yourself out there, a lot of us really kind of hate ourselves. We're like, oh, I'm ugly, my voice is annoying, nobody wants to hear from me. And you start contorting yourselves into other things. People want you, and they want the genuine you. So play whatever mind game you have to. Imagine the whole audience is like your wife or your husband who loves you genuinely, and give yourself to them the way you give yourself to the people who you know love you, because that's what the audience is there for, is the genuine you.
You've reached 911. To report a murder or dead body, press 1.
Fucking stairs.
Why don't you come and have a seat with me?
Look it up. Expired in altercation with inmate number 419.
Punishment without love behind it, you'll come out worse.
Who are you people?
Oh, no.
It's sweater weather, motherfuckers!